Welcome! My name is Colleen Tauke and I'm the sewing specialist for Franz & Porter. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to put together the pieces for the Go Everywhere bag. For the pattern for this project, visit our website. Now to begin this project, we're going to be using a set of pre-cut strips, and then we're going to be using an accent fabric that will become the handles, the top edge of the bag, and the bottom of the bag, and a wonderful batik fabric that will be our lining. Now what we're going to do is go through our strips and select pieces that we want to use for the patchwork part of the bag, front and back. And we're going to be constructing this in the end. So what we're doing is we're going to be using strips that have light on the outside, dark in the center, and then a combination in reverse, the dark on the outside with light down the center. And you'll cut the required pieces following along in the pattern. And what we'll end up getting is this great checkerboard type effect for our bag. And you can use a variety of prints, contrast, high contrast or low contrast, just depending on what kind of mood you're in. Okay, once you've created, you would be joining together these subunits with seams here, and then press everything nice and flat. Don't ever forget to press seam allowances to get that nice polished look to your bag. Okay, now that we're going to create 8 of these units in the bag, 4 on each side. We'll create a bag face and back. Next, we're going to look at the handles of our bag. It will ask you to cut 2 pieces that look like this. And we've selected a dark color fabric. Darks are great for the handles because we know with wear and tear in a bag that it always picks up the oils and things from our hands. So dark fabric is great for the handle. Now what we're going to be doing is pressing that along the long edge, finding the center all the way along, and then opening it up and pressing the long edges towards the center. The idea is that we get to a piece that looks like this. So we have all these creases created in our handle. Then we're going to take a piece of fusible interfacing and we're going to center it along the handle strap on the interior. So we're going to open this up, center it all the way along, and fuse it in place. Now every one of the different products for fusible interfacing may have a little bit different heat setting or the amount of time to actually adhere it. Follow the directions that come with your product that you purchased. Okay, once you've got that centered in the middle and adhered well, then you're going to come back and you're going to fold the outside edges again, going along those creases you created before, then fold over again. That gives you 2 layers of the interfacing to create a real stable strap for your bag. And then you're going to want to come in and you could use a contrasting thread if you're really feeling confident, or you can use a matching thread, and you're going to stitch along each side of the strap to give it kind of a decorative finish. Here I've used just a simple matching brown thread, and remember, you have 2 straps, so you have to do the process twice. Now we've created the pieces for our bag, but we actually have to create the bag body itself. So here we go. In your instructions, it will have you cut a large rectangle, which is the very bottom of your bag, and 2 narrower pieces, which you will see are the top rim of your bag. So you would add those with 1/4-inch seams, arranging your patchwork units in what we would consider a 4-patch type arrangement. These 2 match and these 2 match. Here the background is a little more subtle, but you'll notice that these 2 units are the same and these 2 are the same. Now we have the outside of our bag, but it's not quilted yet. And since we're quilters, we love to have a place to show off some of our stitching. So at this point, using a spray-based or pin-based, whatever is your favorite way of preparing a small quilt, I've spray pasted the layers together here so that I can easily move it to my machine and have a little fun quilting. So in this one, we did an overall pattern of curls because everything's very angular, it's kind of fun to put a little bit of curve into your project. And you'll see, probably the easiest from the back side, we didn't actually put a backing fabric. We have the outer part of our bag and just the batting, and that's the only part we're quilting through. Here you can see I've used a contrast bright blue thread to do kind of a swirl in, swirl out design. And then along the top of the bag, I just did a simple channel stitching so that the bag is entirely quilted. Now before you leave this step here, you want to come in and trim after you've quilted, because the quilting tends to shrink up our piece just a little bit. You want to trim right even with the quilt top. A lot of times when we're doing quilts, we tend to leave the batting a little longer than our quilt top. But this is bag construction, so it's a little bit different. So trim it right up next to the quilted piece of your bag. Now, we need to come in and create the bag shape. So we're going to be stitching a 1/4 inch seam all the way along and do the same thing on the other side. So as you see, this is the top of our bag, and we've created the left and right side. Now, if it stands on point, it's not going to be a very good bag for us. So we want it to have a boxed bottom like this. So what we do is open up the bag, fold it in half till we get this triangular shape laying flat on our cutting surface. Now in the instructions it will tell you that you want to measure up 3 inches from the point of our bag along the seam line. So using a 6.5 inch ruler like this with a great diagonal across it, we can come in and measure 1, 2, 3 so that we know that 3 inches from the point up the seam line. You'll notice the diagonal then falls right along the fold of the bag, and we can come in and make a line for our stitching. Now this is a permanent pen, so I'm using this for your benefit so you can see my marked line really well. It reads better on camera. So we're going to leave a line where we're going to stitch. Okay. Now we're going to take it over to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch right along that marked line. And since this is the outer portion of our bag, we're going to do just a couple of stitches in place to lodge our threads, and then we're going to stitch right on our marked line all the way across. Now if you were going to be using this bag for heavy items, you may want to go in and put a second stitching line right next to the one you just did, just for reinforcements. But if I were using this bag, I would probably not be putting extremely heavy items in, so I'm just going to make one across it. Now we can come in, the scissors, and we're going to leave approximately a 1/4 inch seam allowance behind, like this, which means we just take away the point of our bag. You do that to both sides, and you'll notice now we have a bag that can stand up. Okay, we're going to turn this around so it starts to look like a bag. It's wonderful when you actually can look at a project and go, oh, I'm getting there, I can see it. It gives us that extra oomph just to finish the project. Okay, so here we are, we've got the outside of our bag. Now we need to create the inside. A lining fabric, we've selected this wonderful Batik fabric, and it's just one large piece of fabric, and we have put interfacing, a heavier weight interfacing on the back side of the fabric to give it stability. Again, follow the manufacturer's instructions for the heat of your iron and the length of time you need to be able to fuse it well to your fabric. And then we're going to take this large rectangle, do the exact same process we did with our outer bag, and we're going to put a 1/4 inch seam allowance along one side, and we're going to come in and do a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the opposite side. This time though, the instructions will tell you to leave an opening. So for instance, it doesn't have to be an exact thing. You would stitch maybe from here to here, leave an opening, break thread, and then stitch from here to the bottom of your bag. The reason why we're leaving an opening is because that's how we're going to turn the entire bag right side out. Okay, we have one that's stitched. Okay, and you can see stitched down one side, the second side, and left an opening where there's no stitching there. The exact same boxed bottom as we did on the outer portion of our bag, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance, trimming those away. And now it's time to put everything together. We have the handles, we have the outer part of our bag, and we have the lining. So now we take our stand up of our lining. It's nice that it has that nice boxed bottom because everything can be held together. We're going to drop our bag inside, and you'll make sure that you note the right side of the lining, the pretty part, against the pretty part of our bag. You want them to be facing each other at this point, and you kind of go down into the corners, fit them together. We have 2 pieces, we need the handles, right? So we come in, take our handles. You're going to measure 6 inches from the side seam towards the center of the bag, 6 inches both sides, and place your handles inside between the layers. Now the thing is, you have to think about how the handles are positioned, because if you do this, you're going to end up with a twisted handle. So you have to look at it like a U, and it's nice and smooth. So they'll go down in between. You'll pin the layers together. Do the same on the other side with the other handle. Stitch all the way around in one continuous motion. Once we've stitched all the way around the top of our bag, we're going to come in for the side, that opening we left in our lining, and turn our bag right side out. Nice part is if you can get a hold of the handles, it will help you bring your bag to the right side. Now that opening can be closed by hand or it can be closed by machine. Just depends on which you prefer. This bag has a little bit different color lining. It has a little darker lining, but you can select any fun lining fabric that you'd like. Slide it down, nest the corners together, so you get a nice clean bag, and the handles pulled out. And then at the very end, you're going to, this one has already been done, but it went along the very top and edge stitched so that the lining would slide to the inside and give a nice clean finish to the bag. Now that opening that went down the side, you can just pinch the 2 layers together, take it to the sewing machine and stitch shut, or you can do it by hand. And we have the Go Everywhere bag. For more of our video tutorials, visit our website. Thanks for joining me.